Shalom, shalom, Shaul Dog here once again with your weekly Drosh. Wonderful to be here with you. This is Parashah 46. This is Ekev, which means because. This is chapter 7, verse 12 through chapter 11, verse 25. And basically, this is a lot of stuff that we could apply to our daily lives today. And like I said many times before, this is what my ministry is all about, is applying what's in the Torah to our lives today. Okay? And it's invaluable information. I mean, it's just, awesome to have this kind of stuff at our fingertips. I've made this analogy before also. If you've never rebuilt an engine before, okay, and you go to rebuild the engine without any kind of instruction or whatever, you're going to screw it up, okay? Life is much more complicated than an engine. And we've never lived a full life before, okay? Which means we need instruction. That's why I'm sharing the Torah with you, because Torah means instruction. This is the instruction of our Father for us in our lives. That's what the Torah is. And as long as we obey what the Torah says, then our lives are going to go pretty well. If we don't obey what the Torah says, well, we might get the illusion of our lives going well, but our lives won't be going well, if you know what I mean. But this is basically the heart of what a believer should believe, okay, as far as attitude and everything else, okay? So let's just jump right into it. Because you are listening to these rulings, keeping and obeying them, YHVH, your God, will keep with you the covenant and mercy that he swore to your ancestors. Okay? Right there. As long as you're listening to these rulers, rulings, keeping and obeying them, YHVH, your God, will keep with you the covenant and mercy that he swore to your ancestors. Okay? He made the covenant, but see, the Torah is not the covenant. So many people confuse the Torah with the covenant. The Torah is the terms of the covenant. Okay? And if we break the terms of the covenant, then the covenant is taken away or made null and void. And this is basically what Yah did when he divorced our people. Okay? That's what he did. But then he established a new covenant with the same terms. Okay? A new covenant with the same terms for our people. And then he allowed the Gentiles to actually redeem themselves and to come into, join themselves to the covenant that he made with us. You see? But he will love you, bless you, and increase your numbers. He will also bless the fruit of your body and the fruit of your ground, your grain, wine, olive oil, and the young of your cattle and your sheep. In the land he swore to your ancestors that he would give to you. You will be blessed more than all other peoples. Therefore, there will not be a sterile male or female among you. All the same with your livestock. YHVH will remove all illness from you. He will not afflict you with any of Egypt's dreadful diseases. And we're seeing Egypt's dreadful diseases today in the world. Cancer and AIDS and all that stuff, okay? Which you have known. Instead, he will lay them on those who hate you. Okay? Now, see, the Messiah, Emmanuel, said, basically, anyone who hates us hates him, okay? And, they hated him first, and they're going to hate us, okay? So, well, this can apply to it, okay? Because anybody who hates us, well, basically, those plagues are going to come onto us, okay? Onto them, I mean, not onto us. You are to devour all the people that YHVH, your God, hands over to you. Okay, hands over to you. You're not supposed to go out there and just, without Yah, just to basically go out and do whatever you think is right. But no, when Yah hands them over to you, you show them no mercy, okay? Just like in my foreclosure case right now. When Yah hands Chase Bank over to us, then I'm going to show them no mercy with all the lawsuits that I have, okay? I'm going to bring the kitchen sink to them. I'm going to show them no mercy, okay? And it's not about the money, it's about the justice, and it's about obeying the mitzvah here. I'm showing them no mercy. My Father in heaven says that basically not to show them any mercy, when he hands them over to me. And I'm patiently waiting for that to happen. Show them no pity. Do not serve their gods, which, well, Chase, their god is money. And that's pretty much the god of most people on this earth. Because that will become a trap for you. If you think to yourselves, these nations outnumber us, how can we dispossess them? Nevertheless, you are not to be afraid of them. You are to remember well what Yahweh your God did to Pharaoh and all of Egypt. The great ordeals which you yourself saw in the signs, wonders, strong hand, and outstretched arm. That's a reference to the Messiah Emmanuel, by the way. By which Yahweh your God brought you out. Yahweh will do the same to all the people of whom you are afraid. Do you get that? Okay, he says he's not saying don't be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. Okay, we're humans, and sometimes a human being feels fear. Okay, but basically, all those people we fear who are not under Yah's chuppah, who are not within Yah's covenant, who do not obey the terms to Yah's covenant, well, he's going to pretty much wreck their lives. Moreover, Yahweh your God will send the hornet among them. And it's not the green hornet, okay, with sidekick Cato. Okay, he's going to send the hornet among them, until those who are left and those who hide themselves perish ahead of you. You are not to be frightened of them. Okay, you could be afraid, you could feel fear, but don't be frightened of what you see in front of you. You see, every situation, every dire situation, or at least what appears to be dire in our lives, there's some degree of fear. Okay, it's natural. Okay, but don't be frightened of the adversaries that come against you, because if you're standing firmly on the Torah, then Yah's going to take care of them for you. Okay, because Yahweh your God is there with you, a God great and fearsome. Yahweh your God will expel those nations ahead of you little by little. You just can't put an end to them all at once, or the wild animals will become too numerous for you. Nevertheless, Yahweh your God will give them over to you, sending one disaster after another upon them until they have been destroyed. And we're seeing little bits of that happening in the world today. Okay, whatever happened here is going to happen again. It's just a bunch of leapfrogs. Happens here, then it happens here, then it happens here. And all these things overlap each other. Okay, so we're gonna keep seeing these things happening. He will hand their kings over to you, and you will wipe out their name from under heaven. None of them will be able to stand against you until you have destroyed them. You are to burn up completely the carved statues of their gods. Don't be greedy for the silver or gold on them. Don't take it with you, or you will be trapped by it. For it is abhorrent to Yahweh your God. Don't bring something abhorrent into your house, or else you will share in the curse that is on it. Okay, so see, it looks like Yah curses all of those things that even belong to the wicked. Okay, so whenever you destroy the wicked, you don't take what belongs to them, because that has a curse on it. Okay, if you take what Yah says that you could have, if he creates a scenario for you to gain from attacking them, and it's from him, then it's a different story, because it's not theirs, it's yours. He gave it to you. Instead, you are to detest it completely, loathe it utterly, for it is set apart for destruction. Hear that? All of the mitzvot I'm giving you today, you are to take care to obey, so that you will live, increase your numbers, enter and take possession of the land Yahweh swore about to your ancestors. You are to remember everything of the way in which Yahweh led you these 40 years in the desert, humbling and testing you in order to know what was in your heart, whether you would obey his mitzvot or not. Okay, now see, when we go through hard testing, what's Yah doing? It says it right here, okay? In order to know what was in your heart, whether you would obey his mitzvot or not. So if you're going through a difficult time, well, then what's the best thing to do? Huh? Well, if your heart's with Yah and you don't curse him and you don't blame him for all your problems and everything like that, keep being faithful, okay? Rav Shaul, or the Apostle Paul, talks about this, just walking in faith and being faithful, okay, being faithful servants and everything else. Well, this is what it is. It's obeying the mitzvah, faithfully obeying even though the whole world's crashing down around you, okay? It's because when you have faith in Yah and his mitzvot, by obeying it. See, he's given us promises here. So, when we take these promises and we say, okay, Father, you promised this stuff. I see this whole world crashing down around me, but you promised this stuff. I'm going to keep obeying your mitzvot, not so that I could see your promises fulfilled, but because I love you. It's a matter of the heart and everything. Okay? Yeah, you're getting it, aren't you? But he humbled you, allowing you to become hungry, and then he fed you with manna, which neither you or your ancestors had ever known, to make you understand that a person does not live on food alone, but on everything that comes from the mouth of Yahweh. During these 40 years, the clothing you were wearing didn't grow old, and your feet didn't swell up. Think deeply about it. Yahweh was disciplining you, just as a man disciplines his child. So obey the mitzvot of Yahweh your God, living as he directs and fearing him. Boy, that message has just totally escaped the church. Of course, when you get rid of the Old Testament, quote unquote, you're going to miss this, okay? For Yahweh your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams, springs, and water welling up in the depths and the valleys and on the hillsides. It is a land of wheat and barley, grapevines, fig trees, and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat food in abundance and lack nothing in it, a land where the stones contain iron and the hills can be mined for copper, so you will eat and be satisfied. You will bless Yahweh your God for the good land he has given to you. Be careful not to forget Yahweh your God by not obeying his mitzvot rulings and regulations that I'm giving you today. Okay? Which basically says, hey, you know what? Yah might just drop $1 million in your lap, but don't forget him and don't forget his mitzvah. Keep living the way Yah showed you. Okay? And don't allow the money and everything or the abundance to corrupt you. Okay? He's showing favor to you, so you return that by remaining faithful to him and obeying him out of love for him, you see? Otherwise, after you have eaten and are satisfied, built fine houses and lived in them, and increased your herds, flocks, silver, and gold, and everything else you own, you will become proud-hearted, forgetting Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, where you lived as slaves, who led you through the vast and fearsome desert, with its poisonous snakes, scorpions, and waterless, thirsty ground, who brought water out of flint rock for you. Or who brought, I should put the emphasis there, who brought water out of flintlock for you? Who fed you in the desert with manna unknown to your ancestors, all the while humbling and testing you in order to do you good in the end? You'll think to yourself, my own power and the strength of my own hand have gotten me this wealth. Now, see, my father-in-law had some difficulty with this. When I would be over there to eat dinner with them, I would say, thank you, Father, thank you, Father, for this food, for your provision and everything else. And he'd look at me sort of like, Like, hey, I went and earned this. It was by my hand, the power and strength of my own hand that I got this. Well, no, he had it wrong. Okay. And continues on to say, no, you are to remember Yahweh your God, because it is he who is giving you the power to get wealth in order to confirm his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors, as is happening even today. If you forget Yahweh your God, follow other gods, and serve and worship them, I am warning you in advance today that you will certainly perish. Certainly. Now, see, we have the fire of the burning lake today that we have to look at, and there's still is going to be people that perish, okay? You'll perish just like the nations that Yahweh is causing to perish ahead of you, because you will not have heeded the voice of Yahweh your God. Okay, well, the nations he expelled did not heed his voice, and if you don't heed his voice, if I don't heed his voice, if we don't heed his voice, then guess what? We're going to be booted out of our land, we're going to be destitute, we're going to be poor, and we're going to basically have a curse on us, okay? So now, Yisrael, all that Yahweh your God asks from you is to fear Yahweh. Listen, all that Yahweh your God asks from you is to fear Yahweh your God and to follow all of his ways. Love him and serve Yahweh your God with all your heart and all your being, to obey for your own good the mitzvah and regulations of Yahweh, which I'm giving you today. See, what does he say? All that Yahweh, your God, asks of you is to basically love him and follow him and obey his commands and serve him. Do what he says when he says to do it. How difficult is that? It's not by going to church or synagogue or anything. It's by obeying the word of the law. Okay? See, the sky, the heaven beyond the sky, the earth and everything on it, all belong to Yahweh, your God. Only Yahweh took enough pleasure in your ancestors to love them and to choose their descendants after them, yourselves, above all peoples, as he still does today. Therefore, circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and don't be stiff-necked any longer, for Yahweh, your God, is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great and mighty and awesome Yah, who has no favorites and accepts no bribes. So basically, if you say, "Oh, okay, Yah, I'll obey your mitzvah and everything. Please give me a Mercedes," he ain't gonna do that. You're trying to bribe him. You have to first obey his mitzvah, and then he's going to test you. He's going to test your heart to see if you actually love him and you're going to keep obeying his mitzvah, or if you're going to just basically say, "Hey, you know what? Screw you. You put me in a bad situation here, and it seems like obeying you is worthless, so I'm not doing it." Well, if you're going to be in that kind of attitude, he ain't going to bless you. You're not going to get anything. Okay? You're not going to get the most important and the most valuable thing that I've received from him. Okay? And it's an abundance of blessing, is knowledge of his word and the ability to actually read it and to draw from it what Yah is actually saying. Okay? It's a wonderful blessing. And it's brought me to the ability to look at other people's so-called teaching and say, well, that ain't right. And Yah leads me right to the scriptures to prove them wrong. And then they turn around, they try to prove me wrong, like with the name of the Messiah, Emmanuel. Well, what happens? Well, you can't go against Scripture, and you cannot go against the deep truth that the Messiah, Emmanuel, gives you. So they fall on their faces, you see? So, the blessings aren't just financial and, big houses and nice cars and all that stuff. The blessings are real special blessings are actually getting to know Yah through his word. That is the biggest, most wonderful blessing we could have. He secures justice for the orphan and the widow. He loves the foreigner, okay? He loves the Gentile, okay? Get that? Giving him food and clothing. Therefore, you are to love the foreigner too, since you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. You are to fear Yahweh your God and serve him, cling to him, and swear by his name. He is your praise. He is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome things which you have seen with your own eyes. Your ancestors went down into Egypt with only 70 people, but now Yahweh your God has made your numbers as many as the stars in the sky. See, that shows that Yah keeps his promises, and that's another step in faith. That's another thing about faith. When we read his promises and we believe his promises, you can't see him, you can't touch him, you can't feel him. You only hear him when he speaks to you, and that's not often. He's not a real chatty guy. When you hear a bunch of chatter, well, that's all Satan talking to you, okay? Because Yah is very, very brief and to the point when he speaks to you. He'll say one thing to you, and you'll know exactly the whole situation surrounding what he tells you, because his timing's perfect when he tells you, okay? Therefore, you are to love Yahweh your God and always obey his commission, regulations, rulings, and mitzvah. Always. What part of always don't the churches get? Today it is you I am addressing, not your children, who haven't known or experienced the discipline of Yahweh your God, his greatness, his strong hand, his outstretched arm, his signs, and his actions, which he did in Egypt to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and to his entire country. They didn't experience what he did to Egypt's army, horses and chariots, and how Yahweh overwhelmed them with the water of the Sea of Suf, or the Red Sea, as they were pursuing you, so that they remain destroyed to this day. And the destruction is not a physical destruction, it's a spiritual destruction. And you see with the riots in Egypt today, what's going on over there, you see the same things going on. I mean, it's a spiritual destruction. They didn't experience what he kept doing for you in the desert until you arrived at this place, or what he did in Datan or Aviram, the sons of Eliav, the descendants of Reuven, how the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, along with their households, tents, and every living thing in their company. They're in front of all of Israel. But you have seen with your own eyes all these great deeds of Yahweh. Therefore, you are to keep every mitzvah I'm giving you today, so that you will be strong enough to go in and take possession of the land you're crossing over to conquer. And so that you will live long in the land Yahweh swore to give to your ancestors and to their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. Okay? Keep every mitzvah I am giving you today, so that you will be strong enough to go in and take possession of the land you're crossing over to conquer. Okay? See, there's a direct tie between obeying the mitzvah and overcoming the enemies of this world. Okay? It's written right here in plain English. And if you look in the Torah scroll, it's written in plain Hebrew. Okay? For the land you are entering in order to take possession of isn't like the land of Egypt. There you would sow your seed and had to use your feet to operate its irrigation system, as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are crossing over to take possession of is a land of hills and valleys, which soaks up water when rain falls from the sky. It is a land Yahweh your God cares for. The eyes of Yahweh your God are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So if you listen carefully to my mitzvah, which once again, listen carefully to my mitzvah. Not just, read them and say, don't steal. Well, it goes a lot deeper than that. That comes with prayer and actually listening carefully, okay? Which means Yah's going to give you the rest of it, okay? It's not an oral Torah either. But so if you listen carefully to my mitzvah, which I'm giving you today, to love Yahweh your God and serve him with all your heart and all your being, then, says Yahweh, I will give your land and its rain at the right seasons, including the early fall rains and the late spring rains, so that you can gather in your wheat, new wine, and olive oil. And I will give your field grass for your livestock, and with the result that you will eat and be satisfied. But be careful not to let yourselves be seduced, so that you turn aside serving other gods and worshiping them. Okay, and we see that all the time. People in the church, people in the synagogues, and everything else. 9-branch menorah, big fruity gay costumes on Purim, Easter, Christmas, all of those Vatican holidays and everything else, while you're worshiping other gods. Okay? You're worshiping other gods. Worship is obedience. Okay? You obey who you worship. So if you're not obeying Yah and his commandments, then you're worshiping somebody else. Plain and simple. So don't be seduced so that you turn aside serving other gods and worshiping them. If you do, the anger of Yahweh will blaze up against you. He will shut up the sky so there will be no rain. The ground will not yield its produce, and you will quickly pass away from the good land Yahweh is giving you. And the land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, was a barren wasteland before the Yehudim started coming back to it. And when they started coming back to it, all of a sudden, all of the life started coming back to it also. Okay? So, we see how Yah definitely does have control over Eretz Yisrael and all the other countries in the world. Have you ever noticed where the most poverty and famine occurs is where there's absolutely no Torah? Therefore, you are to store up these words of mine in your heart and in all of your being. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, which means do them, act them out. Make them as frontlets between your eyes, which means remember them. Always have them on the front of your head, on the front of your mind. Always think about it, okay? Teach them carefully to your children, talking about them when you sit at home, when you are traveling on the road, when you lie down, when you get up. Write them on the door frames of your house and on your gates, which means write the 10 Commandments on the actual door frames of your house and on your gates. No mezuzahs, okay? That's not following the mitzvah. That's not obeying Yah, okay? That's obeying the rabbis, okay? Write them on the door frames of your house and on your gates. Remember that. So that, and it doesn't say, okay, do a nice, custom-made plaque or whatever. No, you actually grab a paint marker and write them. I had one person say, well, I live in $1 million house. I'm not going to write on my door frames. Well, I see who your God is. Your God is money and, your $1 million house. But write them on the door frames of your house and on your gates so that you and your children will live long on the land Yahweh swore to your ancestors that he would give them for as long as there is a sky above earth. And, well, the sky is still there. So if we obey the mitzvah and we keep doing what Yah says to do, then, well, we're going to be blessed. For if you will take care to obey all these mitzvot I'm giving you, to do them, to love Yahweh your God, to follow all his ways, and to cling to him, then Yahweh will expel all these nations ahead of you, and you will dispossess nations bigger and stronger than you are. Well, because Yah is bigger and stronger than they are. Wherever the sole of your footsteps will be yours, your territory will extend from the desert to the Lebanon, and from the river to the Euphrates River, to the western sea. No one will be able to withstand you. Yahweh your God will place the fear and dread of you on all the land you step on, as he told you. Now see, folks, it's all about obedience, because when we are in obedience, then Yah puts his covenant onto us. And when he puts his covenant onto us, then we have an agreement, okay? We come together in agreement. Okay, we as humans with Yah, we come together in agreement. That's what a covenant is. Okay, Yah says these are the terms of the covenant, and you say I agree to these terms. And by working the terms out, basically in your, whatever, in your actions and everything else, by working those terms out, you honor the covenant, which keeps you in the covenant. Once you start rejecting those terms and going with your own terms and stuff like that, well, then guess what? You break the covenant. Okay, the one who issued the covenant is the one who could revoke it because you broke it. Okay? It's not a two-part covenant. Okay, it's not a two-party covenant. It's a one-party covenant. Yah giving the covenant to us. Now, we could either accept it or we could deny it. Okay, sort of like the cable company. Cable company says, well, we have a 12-month program. These are our terms. If you sign here, then you agree to these terms. That's basically the same thing. It's not like, okay, Yah gives us this, and then we say, well, I'm going to give you this, this, and this, and this. If you agree to this, then I'll agree to this. It's not that way, okay? So there's only one way, Yah's way. If you want to be part of his covenant, then you need to obey his mitzvah, okay? You need to obey his commands. Remember, seek first the kingdom of heaven, all of his righteousness, and all these things will be given unto you. Take care. I look forward to the next time.